So I'm closing in on 3 months living in Nairobi, Kenya. And I'll be real with you guys, when I first got here, I wasn't massively impressed. I've been walking around, going to the grocery stores, and I'm gonna see like potholes everywhere, open drains. Crossing the roads here is a nightmare. You know, I haven't seen a zebra crossing anywhere in Nairobi. I don't know if you Kenyans even know what a zebra crossing is. So I spent the last 2 years living in South Africa, so naturally I'm used to a certain level of infrastructure. And of course, I was born and raised in London, which has, you know, in some capacity, perfect level of infrastructure. Red light means stop, green light means go. Here, it's a completely different infrastructure. And I don't think I was prepared for that. My expectations weren't massively high. I knew I was going to have a dip in infrastructure, but I wasn't expecting, you never know what to expect when you go to a new African country. And I feel like the infrastructure deficit is definitely prevalent here in Nairobi. However, the longer I've stayed here, the more I've grown to appreciate the people, the city, the culture, so much so that I'm planning to make Kenya my second home in Africa. I'm planning to move here. Now, I won't be staying here all year due to tax residency reasons. I don't want to become a tax resident in this country. The taxes here are 30%, in case you didn't know. I know there are some nomads who live here for years and years and years, and they fly under the radar. I'm not giving you tax advice here. All I'm saying, I don't want to be here full time, but I will definitely be here. And I'll be giving you 5 reasons why. If you're new to the channel, my name is Nathan Peters. I left the UK 3 years ago, and I've just been documenting my journey ever since, traveling to different countries, particularly in the global south, and basing myself in Africa. Now, one of the best things about Nairobi, Kenya is it's surprisingly safe and protected. Too protected, in fact. So when you're going to malls or supermarkets, you're going to notice there is literally airport level security. They have those metal detectors that are going to scan your bags. When you walk in, I don't know what you call those machines, but those metal detecting machines, you're going to walk through them and they don't let anyone in who doesn't go through security. Even in your apartments, there's going to be someone who opens the door for you and all the guests, so no one could just run in and just kill people. Not like that happens here. In Nairobi, it's very difficult to buy a gun. You need to be an ex-military personnel. You need to go through so many different checks and for you to buy a gun here. It's not like in USA where any 21-year-old can just get a gun license and go buy something and start shooting people. Where like a psychopath, someone beat him on Call of Duty, he's now super pissed off, so he starts shooting your children. Or like in London, if you're wearing a nice watch and you go into a nice dinner, someone doesn't just come and stab you. They won't, in London, I'll tell you this, they won't ask you to steal your watch. They'll just put the blade inside of you, right? And then take your watch. That's what happens in London, right? So the Western media portrays Africa as unsafe and this dangerous place, and they recommend you never to go there. Where I'd even argue some parts of Africa is safer than the UK, safer than the USA, especially in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, just the day I was walking around, I was vlogging, I had my iPhone out. You know, iPhones are expensive. If someone goes and try and sell this, they're gonna be making a pretty penny out of it. And I didn't feel like anyone was out here to mug me, anyone was going to try and steal my stuff. Now, there are some parts of Nairobi that you're not going to go to and have your phone out, because the worst thing that will happen is someone will steal your phone. That is the worst thing. And if you are going to run into problems, which I doubt, it's going to be non-violent. I don't feel like people are naturally aggressive here. Now, compared to living in South Africa, I did feel safe where I was in South Africa. However, I felt very confined to a very little bubble. I was very scared, you can say. I was very careful not to venture out of the Sandton area or Midrand area, because I knew if I stepped into another neighborhood that I wasn't really sure of, I can run into trouble, right? And this is one of the reasons which I didn't really feel like I wanted to explore other parts of Johannesburg, because I was just worried that I might run into trouble there. There are some places in Johannesburg we just don't go to. You don't go to Hillbrow. You don't go to the CBD. You don't go downtown, right? The parts within Sandton, for the most part, are very safe, but you still have sometimes robberies, and there could be armed robberies there. Now, I never experienced it, but there was always that impending fear. And one thing I need you to understand is even if there's a 1% chance that someone could shoot you, that is still a risk that you want to be careful of, especially if you have children. So if you're looking to raise your children in Africa, or specifically in Nairobi, I can say with confidence that your children will be safe. If you send your kid out to go to the mall by himself or herself, you don't have to have the fear that they're gonna get kidnapped. When you compare that to the USA, these things are known to happen more commonly. Or compared to UK, you don't have to feel like your child is gonna get stabbed because he's in the wrong postcode. People here aren't really trying to be about it like that, you know what I mean? So that was always a fear that I had in the UK as a young black man in the UK, right? Whereas here, that doesn't happen. This is going to be a little bit personal here, but I'm going to say it anyway. In Kenya, it has by far the best culture I've seen when it comes to collectivism. Now, what I mean by this is in most Western societies, like the UK, like USA, like Europe, it's a super individualistic culture. You might be living next door to your neighbor for 3 years, and the only time he will ever message you is to move your car out of his driveway. In the West, it's like no one really truly cares. And it's not like they're inherently toxic either. They're not mean or horrible people. I mean, there are some horrible people in the UK, but I wouldn't say people are inherently toxic. It's more so that everyone is just there for themselves. It's every man or woman for themselves. Everyone's in this cost of living crisis, so everyone's all fixated on their career or work, which means that you can feel very isolated. Everyone kind of operates in their own individual buckets. Now, what I experienced growing up with a lot of black men, or call them black boys because they weren't men, but it was this sort of crabs in the bucket mentality. It felt like everything I was trying to do that was different from the norm, right? Because when you want to be successful, you have to do things that people are not really doing. It was kind of like, I'm going to support you up until a point, but the moment that you surpass me, or the moment that you're doing better than me, I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to exclude you. I'm not going to talk to you. That is a crabs in the bucket mentality in the UK. There's a lot of envious people, especially amongst black men. Black men in the UK don't like to see other black boys succeeding. That's just how it is. That was the environment I was raised in, and it was toxic and I hated it. You compare that to a place like Nairobi, where people want to support you here. If you're opening up a local business, people will try and plug you into their communities. Hey, how can I support you? How can I help you? How can I recommend you to a friend? In what way can I add value to your life? You're running an online business. People will praise you. People will support you. Generally, I found here, people want to invite you to things here. People want to bring you into their circle, bring you into their bubble. Now, for me, I don't want to say this in a very pretentious way, but I'm a very selective person in terms of who I mingle with, who I network with. But it doesn't matter what background you're coming from, whether you're more creative, more artsy, all the way to more left brain people like myself who are into tech, into business. There are communities here for that, and they want people like you from the West who can bring a lot of the value and the attributes that was overlooked in the UK, that was overlooked in the West, where people would downplay your achievements, downplay your success. In here, that is welcomed a lot. And the more I reflect on it, the more it becomes convincingly clear that for years and years and years, people in the UK, or just call it the West, it's all the West, it's all the Matrix. People in the West will stifle your achievements. They'll belittle you. You're not doing anything that special. You'll never amount to anything. Whereas when someone tries to give me a compliment here, because I've been getting lots of compliments here, because I've got unique gifts, you've got unique gifts, and it kind of just goes through one ear out the other because I'm so used to people just trashing on my achievements. It's just a very small-minded society. You designed to think small. Follow the traditional path. Do what your parents told you to do. That's the mentality I was raised in. And it's no denying that I've tried to escape that system. Now, on the topic of Matrix, because I know a lot of young men are watching my content, and relationships and dating is not the reason why I left the UK. I left the UK to go to Dubai the first time, and I went from Dubai to Cape Town, and I just saw how many beautiful women there were on the continent. And I said, okay, well, it looks like I'm gonna look for my wife here. In Nairobi, from what I've experienced, compared to most Western societies, there is a stronger relationship-based culture here. I see more happy couples than I've ever experienced anywhere traveling the world. So if you're looking to find your wife here or a life partner, and you're looking to start a family here, I feel like Nairobi could definitely be, especially if you're a black Brit or black American, and for me, I'm mainly attracted to black women. So what better place to be than on the continent? There is definitely an opportunity here. And one thing I will say, compared to a lot of the other westernized societies I've been in, when you go on a date with a girl in the West, UK, US, it's kind of like a guilty until proven innocent kind of vibe. It's like you're on a date with her, you're paying for the food, and you're convincing her on why she should be in a relationship with you. Whereas here, for me, I'm talking from personal experience, it genuinely feels the other way around. And for me, I'm socially aware enough to know if a woman is just using me or trying to, I know women who do that, right? They're not as like psychologically twisted to kind of get me into a state like I've experienced the most transactional women all the way to non-transactional women. I've had low interest women, I've had very high interest women, and I've seen it all. So no woman can finesse me. I'm unfinessable. But here, I've definitely experienced the most feminine energy than I've ever experienced anywhere in the world. All right, so let's talk about the cost of living. Now, it goes without saying that Kenya, Nairobi is way cheaper than London. But what I don't want for you is you to come here and you're financially struggling or you haven't built a remote source of income and you're just coming here and figuring out, right? Because I've been making money online years before I left London. So when I left, this is the reason why I've been able to sustain myself for so long. Whereas other people have gone back and whatever, is because I had a predictable source of income coming in. So, but if you have that, if you have a remote job or you're making money online, you have an online business, you can live very, very nicely here on just 3,000 a month. £3,000 a month will give you a very, 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 very nice lifestyle with money left over. Compared to London, honestly, I don't know why people enjoy living in London. I don't get the appeal. People try to convince me, Nathan, come back. Like, what in London is better than living here? Honestly, I can't see it. Compare that to living in London. You are hanging by a thread every month just to pay for your 1-bedroom shoebox, or you're in a house share sharing with roommates who leave all their mess all over the floor and bringing girls around, and it's like you have no peace of mind. That is the appeal. That's the British dream, right? Or the British promise, as I like to call it. That is what it's like living in London. Compared to here, you can live on £3,000 a month. Heck, even £2,000 a month and still have money left over at the end of the month. And it's not just rent. Rent is just obviously going to be the biggest expense you're going to incur whilst living here. It's also things like house helpers and cleaners, right? You can afford to have a house helper and cleaner. I have a cleaner come in 3 times a week. My place is spotless all the time. I have fresh bed sheets every other day. It feels like I'm living in a hotel. And again, this is all very, very affordable. Uber's way cheaper here. I don't know if London doesn't have Bolt, but Uber is even cheaper than TfL or London buses. So I can't remember how much it costs using a London bus. It's been so long since I've used that. But from what I remember, I wouldn't be spending more than £2, £3, depending where I go. Uber is the same price here. And I knew in London, whenever I go back to London, I rarely ever use Ubers because they're so expensive. Whereas here, it's like the same cost as a bus, sometimes even cheaper. And the Ubers here are nice. They're not like some broke down, dirty looking tractors. They're actually nice, got a nice sliding door, they're clean, they smell nice. So you're gonna have a nice experience when you're going in the Ubers as well. Because I know this is a misconception as well. Again, Western propaganda, everything's gonna be dirty and rugged, and it's not like that. And for me, I'm always gonna keep it real with you. I'm not gonna try and inflate it, because I know there's some people who will inflate countries and make it seem like everything here is so perfect. I will tell you what's good and what's bad if you want to live here. And the final thing I love about Kenya, and again, I can go on and on and on, but it's a fully cashless society. It's even better than South Africa in that regard, because boy, oh boy, when it comes to making payments in South Africa, so in most malls you go to, you can use your card. You can use Apple Pay. I use Apple Pay for everything right now. But in South Africa, sometimes like when you're trying to pay your rent, you've got to use EFT. EFT is basically like bank transfer or wire transfer. And it only works if you have a local bank account. But if you don't have a visa or a work permit, you're not gonna be able to open up a bank account. So then how are you gonna pay certain vendors? How are you gonna pay your rent? So unless you have someone you can send the money to, and then they're gonna send the money for you, and you can trust someone to do that for you, then you're gonna have a very hard time making some payments in South Africa, because some vendors, especially when you're doing rent applications, they're gonna expect you to have a local bank account where they can take deposits from. And it was really inconvenient me living there, and especially when I didn't have a visa. Whereas in Kenya, they use an M-Pesa system. Now, for me, for some reason, I haven't been able to figure out how it works completely. I think it doesn't connect to a UK bank account. I'm gonna go to Safaricom tomorrow to try and sort that out. But you can use something called Send Wave. Now, Send Wave allows you to send directly to their mobile number and they get the money instantly. The only thing about Send Wave that, is a little bit of an inconvenience is that the minimum balance is £1. So you can't send anything less than £1, which can be a bit annoying if you're, buying local food. Like today, I went and bought some local food and I wanted to spend 20 shillings, which is like 12p, but I couldn't do it because my minimum sending balance was £1. So I just bought some extra stuff there so I can get to the minimum balance, right? But more time, you're going to be spending things that are over £1. Or if you trust them, you can pay them more upfront and then pay them the rest later on. Another app I use is Remitly. I've been using Remitly for everything, and that's how I was able to cope in South Africa. So if you want to move to South Africa, you can use Remitly, and that can send directly to South African bank accounts. right? We're doing an international transfer. But for me, for some reason, the M-Pesa system just doesn't work with UK bank accounts, and maybe some US expats figured it out. I haven't figured it out yet. So if you're coming here, download Sendwave. There's an app on the App Store. And Remitly, if you're doing a larger transfer, so you're doing like 100, 200, or £1,000, use Remitly for that. But yeah, mobile money works really, really well here. It's fast, it's convenient, and I love it. So my final thoughts here is my last video I did on Kenya versus South Africa got a lot of controversy because a lot of people seem to think I was trying to literally compare Kenya to South Africa. Why would I ever do an apples to oranges comparison? And most people that were commenting were people from Kenya or South Africa, thinking that I'm trying to create some unnecessary rivalry. They don't know my target audience are people in the UK or US but are looking to relocate to these countries. And I'm only going to speak from lived experience as someone who's born and raised in Western society and is now permanently relocated. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, right? I've permanently relocated my lifestyle base, at least, to Africa, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So Kenya, I love you. You've been great to me, and I'm going to continue to be here, although I will be alternating between Kenya and South Africa for tax reasons and also just to have a different change of environment.